Okay, here we go. Key framers of the United States Constitution, Part 2. We're going to start with Roger Sherman. Roger Sherman was a delegate for Connecticut, and his contribution was that he proposed the Connecticut Compromise, also known as the Great Compromise. And this is what truly made the Constitution break out of the argument phase and into, oh, this might really be a real thing. His compromise said that each state would be proportionately represented by population in the House of Representatives and by an equal number of votes from each state in the Senate. Sherman was also the only founding father to have signed all major documents of the Revolutionary era. He signed the Continental Association of 1774. He signed the Declaration of Independence. He also signed the Articles of Confederation, and he signed the United States Constitution. William Paterson. He was a delegate for New Jersey, and his contribution was that he helped to author the New Jersey Plan. Since he was a delegate from New Jersey, that's why they called it the New Jersey Plan, which attempted to safeguard the rights of small states. So if you think New Jersey Plan, you should think small states. In William Paterson's plan, he called for each state to have equal representation in Congress. He opposed plans for proportional representation for fear that the interests of small states would be ignored. In reference to proportional representation, Paterson wrote, "I would rather submit to a monarch, to a king, to a despot, than to such a fate." He actually left the convention in late July, but returned to sign the Constitution in September when aspects of his proposal were included in the Connecticut Compromise. So William Paterson says small states matter too, and low populations matter too. You can't just forget about the small groups, right? And until you're willing to consider their interests, I'm not going to participate. And then when Roger Sherman, when he came up with the Great Compromise, which used parts of his ideas in a bicameral Congress, not just one Congress with one set of rules, but one Congress with two parts, each of them with different rules, one of them having Paterson's rules. Then he was willing to consider things because that meant that small states would have equal representation in at least one of the houses of Congress. And that meant that they had some real power and real bite to their concerns. James Wilson. James Wilson, ooh, my computer is being funky, was the delegate for Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is one of the larger states. His contribution was that James Wilson's most notable contribution to the convention was his desire for a single executive, one president. He did not want a committee. So people were arguing, instead of a king, we should have a group of 5 men. And these 5 men, they would run the country on a day-to-day basis, and any law passed by Congress, it would be these 5 men, their job to make sure it actually happened. And James Wilson says, one guy, because those 5 will just argue, right? This individual, this single executive, would have absolute veto power to overturn laws created by the legislature. Wilson also favored the direct election of executive by the people of the United States. So he wanted a popular vote for the presidents. That is not what we have. Other delegates favored the election of the executive by Congress. So we, the people, would elect Congress, and Congress would then choose the president. And feared that an absolute veto, something that Wilson wanted, would quickly lead to abuses of power. Oh, well, I'm the president. I don't like that law. I'll just delete it. Arguments over Wilson's position eventually led to compromises that included limited veto powers of the executive and the establishment of the Electoral College. So later on, we are talking and reading about veto powers of the executive, and we were talking about the establishment of the Electoral College. The reason those exist is because gentlemen like James Wilson were arguing for much stronger objectives, and they were compromises to kind of get somewhere in the middle. I hope you're reading, and I hope you're learning, and I hope you're doing well.